Hey everyone, my name is Andrew, and I'm going to be leading you through how we can discover bias within some artificial intelligence algorithms. So we're going to be using a couple different tools today, and I'm just going to do a simple walkthrough of how you can put this stuff together. The cool thing about this kind of a project is you can use any kind of image, audio, or body picture data that you're looking to use. So I'm going to leave it up to your creativity to take this in any direction that you want to, but we're going to give you a couple of samples just to get your brain moving. So no pun intended there. You're going to see where that goes in just a minute. So allow me to walk through what's going on in our document here. So as you can see, we're looking about discovering bias in artificial intelligence. So you may have heard of some things of artificial intelligence algorithms not tracking things appropriately. This has come up in the media about identifying pictures of certain people. This has come up in different biomedical applications if you're trying to figure out what's happening within some kind of data that's being presented. So let's see a couple examples of what that looks like. So we're going to be using a couple different tools here today. We've created a couple of tracking sheets that you can use along with some sample projects, so you have some scaffolding when you want to get started. And we even have an instruction document if you've never done this for the first time. But what this is going to be powered by primarily is the Google Teachable Machine. So you can see here, if I open that up from the document, we get this really cool interface where we can upload different kinds of project data and see how an AI classifier would be able to identify certain kinds of things that we want to see put into place. So I'm going to go ahead and select image projects, since what we're going to be working on here today are going to be primarily images, and we'll get an example of some of those in just a moment. So with all this stuff just sitting here for the moment, I'm going to talk a little bit about the background here. So within artificial intelligence, most of what a computer is going to be doing is using a thing called machine learning to detect the kind of patterns that we want the AI to find. So we generally categorize this as supervised or unsupervised. In this case, we're going to be doing something called supervised machine learning. And what that means is we are going to be telling the computer what a certain kind of data is and what a certain kind of different piece of data is. So in this case, we're going to be using pictures. So if you look at this example here, imagine you gave the computer lots of pictures of hands, and you said, "Computer, these are pictures of hands." And then you gave the computer lots of pictures of feet. You said, "Computer, these are feet." So eventually the computer will start to understand, when you feed it lots and lots of different pictures, what is really going on. So what exactly are pictures of feet? What kinds of different things within those pictures will fit a certain pattern. So maybe it's going to look for a heel. Maybe it's going to look for a leg that's coming from the foot. And that's going to be different from a picture of a hand, where a foot is clearly not going to have a thumb. It's going to be connected to an arm, and maybe that arm is wearing like a sleeve, like you can see on my camera here. So eventually the computer is going to learn this the more data that you feed into it. However, as you can imagine, computers can only work off of the data that you give it. So if we give pictures of feet that only, say for instance, come with socks on, so if they have like just pictures of socks on the feet, then if you give the computer a picture of a foot without a sock, then maybe the computer is going to detect a pattern of, oh, well, this can't be a foot because it doesn't fit the model that I gave it, so it must be a hand. So we got to be really careful about these different kinds of bias that happen because of the pictures that we provide to that algorithm, and we'll be able to see what this looks like. So with that very brief piece of introduction behind us, we're going to give you a mission. So we have 3 different sets of classifiers that we want to create, and I'm going to walk through how we can make one of those. And then I want to see what kinds of cool projects that you can all create and how we can resolve some of that bias that's going to happen because of the data that we feed our algorithms. So as you can see up here, we have some different projects that you can work on. I'm actually going to start with the cell sorter here. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And we have the Google Teachable Machine already open. So let's go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to do first is I am going to take a look at my model here. And as you can see, we have a couple of different image sets that we can use. So in this case, we are going to be testing the difference between brain cells, pictures of human brain cells, and pictures of human cheek cells. So stuff that we really zoom in on. And let's just take a look at what these images look like. So as you can see, these brain cells here are going to have a certain pattern. So in this case, we're going to be feeding the computer lots of different pictures. As you can tell, the colors are going to be a bit different because of the kinds of microscopes and ways that this data is portrayed. But there's going to be some similar patterns within these brain cells. So you're going to see that they all have different connections via the center of that cell and the different axons that connect to the other cells as well. And just to give a little bit of clarification, that's what our human brain cells are going to look like. Let's take a look at those cheek cells. So if we open these up, they are going to look a little bit similar. However, you're going to notice with those brain cells, we always had those different pieces that connect to the other cells. So those bridges, if you will. You'll see in the cheek cells, these are all independent. They look more circular than our brain cells, which tend to have those connections to other neurons. So let's see if we can get our computer to recognize the difference between those. So I'm going to go ahead and say that we want to create a bunch of human brain cell categories. So remember, we're going to be telling the computer what each of these different pictures are. So this would be our human brain cells, and here we're going to have a human cheek cell. Great. So now all we have to do is upload some images here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to first go back to our human brain cells. I'm going to select all of these, and I'm going to download them. So let's go ahead and download it. So this is going to create a zip file, so I will just unzip that when we get the chance. All right, awesome. So we have this open here. So let's go ahead and unzip this. We're going to extract this all. All right, so we have all of our images. So let's go ahead and upload these. So we can actually drag and drop right in there. So let's actually go ahead and do that. So over here are our brain cells. Awesome. So these are all uploaded. So what we have just done is we've told the computer, here are 10 images of human brain cells. Now, whenever you see a picture that looks like this, classify it as a brain cell. Awesome. So let's go ahead and do the same thing with our cheek cells. So we're going to go here and download those pictures. So as you can see, we also have 10 of these. We want to keep the number of pictures consistent. So we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to download these. We're going to unzip them, and then we're going to upload them into our algorithm. So let's open that up. Let's hit extract all. And I am completing this on a Windows 10 operating system. You can also do this on Mac OS, or you could do this on a Chromebook as well. So let's go ahead and upload those pictures. Right, so here's our cheek cells that we looked at before. So let's upload those. And now we have 10 images. So we now have some sample data sets. So all we have to do now is train our model. So what the computer is doing now is it's looking at all of these different pictures and it's looking for patterns. So in this case, it's going to be looking for things called nodes. So different things that the computer can track and then put into bits so that we can figure out what's happening. All right, so you can see our model is trained. So we have two different ways of measuring the outputs. So the computer is either going to recognize this as a human brain cell or a human cheek cell. So now that we have our model all set, we're going to want to see how this data works. So we're going to be good scientists and we're going to take good track of our data. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to go back into our materials, and you're going to see that we have a bias tracker Google Sheet that we're going to open up. And what I'm simply going to do here is I'm going to make a copy of this so that we can edit it for our own purposes. So let's go ahead and make a copy. Great. So we have a copy of this that we can use, and now we just need to describe our project before we start testing some data. So you can, I'm just going to make this all nice and organized. So there we go. So now this is a brand new project that we can work with. So this is going to be an image teachable machine project. Like as you saw on that home screen, we can do audio, we can do images, we can also do different body poses. Number of different classes tested. So we're doing 2 different classes, right? So we have the human cheek cells, and we also have the human brain cells. In images for class, we're going to start with 10, right? So in the world of artificial intelligence, 10 samples is not a statistically relevant amount of information. However, for our purposes today, it's going to be perfect to understand what's happening behind the scenes, right? So our type of classifier, so remember we're doing human brain cells, and we're also doing human cheek cells. So we're going to go ahead and make this a little bit easier to read right there. Perfect. Okay, so now you can see here we have some different test results that we can detect. So our sheet is all set here, and let's go ahead and test some different models. So this is all trained, and what we also provided here for you is a list of different test images. So we're going to find out how accurate our model is. So I'm going to do the exact same thing that we did before. I'm going to select all these and I'm going to download them. And these are going to be the pictures that we use to test the accuracy of our model. So this is going to be very simple. Once we have this up and ready, all I need to do is upload these and see how well the computer is recognizing them. Great. So we have these all downloaded and ready to go. You can also upload these directly through Google Drive, particularly if you're using a Chromebook. It's really simple to do, and you can follow along the prompts within Google Machine, the Teachable Machine, in order to do that. So let's go ahead and start with one of these. So in our image model, we can upload a picture. So I am going to upload a picture of, let's say, a neuron. So this is going to be a, actually, got to open this up first. No, I think I might be able to just drag it in there. Let's give it a shot. So let's drag it in here. Yes. So we just uploaded a brand, you'll see that this picture here was not within that original test data set. And you will see that this recognizes the output is 100% human brain cell. So that is very encouraging, right? So it seems like we got an 100% match. So let's go ahead and test and write that result. So in this sample, we have a human brain cell. That's the real class, right? We already know that. And the output classification, we have human brain cell. Awesome. So looks like we're doing pretty well there. Let's test that again. So let's go back in here and let's try a new one. How about a cheek cell? Let's see how well this does. Perfect. So we did a human cheek cell, and as you can see, we got an 100% match. So that is also very encouraging. So let's go ahead and log that data. So we have a human cheek cell. So of course, we as human beings looking at this picture can tell the difference. We just want to make sure whether or not the computer can tell the difference too. So output classification, human cheek cell. Awesome. All right, let's try another one. So let's go back into our model. We're going to go to our sample images. So we tested these two. Now let's test this one. This is clearly a neuron. However, obviously this is a diagram of one. So you can see here that this one's actually testing this the wrong way, right? So we know that this picture that we uploaded is a human brain cell, right? It's a representation of one. Clearly it's not the same picture, but you can already see here that something that a human could recognize is not the same as what a computer could recognize. So that's going to be something that we might need to fix. So our third image was a human brain cell. However, what this recognized was a human cheek cell. So that's not good. That's a kind of bias that we're going to want to ameliorate. All right, so we did these first three. How about this fourth one? Let's try that. Okay, this one is, you can see slightly less accurate, right? So this is 97% cheek cell. However, that in terms of machine learning, a 97% match is actually pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and log that. So human cheek cell. This was recognized as a human cheek cell. And for our purposes today, anything above a 50% we're going to mark as a correctly organized output classification. All right, so we got that one there. So we just completed these. Let's try another cheek cell. Oh, so you can see here on this cheek cell, we also have a little bit of bias. So this is not interpreting this the correct way. So let's log that. So human cheek cell. However, this is being shown as a human brain cell. Okay. So let's go ahead and try another one. All right, let's do another cheek. And this one's a bit more accurate. So I'm actually going to log this one here, and then we're going to take a step back so we can really think about how these things are working. So let's think about why this is happening. So you can see here, this cheek cell is being organized correctly, and some of the reasons why, we can look at some of these different pictures that we use to train our classifier, and this looks like it fits the same color profile as these pictures. You can also see that it's kind of taken from that same kind of microscope lens, and that these circular patterns are probably being picked up correctly. Like, as opposed to these different neuron pictures that have come in here, these are going to have a lot longer cell structures that are going to be connected to other groups, and that looks like something that the machine is picking up. So if we start to really look at why these things are being classified correctly here, we can kind of deduce that that might be happening. But if we look at some of the images that were not sampled correctly, so for instance, this cheek cell here, if we go back and take a look at one of the ones that we did before, let's upload that again. So why might this not be represented correctly? Well, you'll see here that in our cheek data set, we have lots of pictures of cells that are relatively, you can tell that the quantity is not very high. So maybe there'll be probably 4 to 5 different pictures of human cheek cells in here. A couple have a bit more, but that is going to look very different in this picture. So you can see in this picture here, we have lots and lots of different pieces of cells, and we can think that the computer might be looking at a picture like this and seeing one of these sample sets that have lots of other patterns in the background. So this machine learning algorithm might be picking up, okay, if you see lots of different dots or lots of different circles, then this might be a human brain cell. So that is what is being processed by the computer. And we can really start to look at all these different pieces of data that we put in and kind of make some predictions of why these certain things are happening. We can hypothesize a little bit. So we can see here that we can also test out exactly, just how accurate this is. So we didn't put all 10 pictures in here, but I just want to skip ahead to this piece so that we can try to figure out what's happening. So I'm going to say that class 1, so our class 1 here is going to be our human brain cell, right? So I'm actually going to put that in here. So human brain cell, I'm going to abbreviate that, and I'm going to say human cheek cell. And that if we look at this, we can see that our human brain cell, we inputted 2 pictures here, and you can see that this was identified correctly the first time, but was not identified correctly the second time. So this has an accuracy of 50%, right? Oh, so that's actually already in there. And for the cheek cell, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of data, and that this was correct 3 out of 4 times, right? So that's going to be 75%. So remember some of those hypotheses that we made before? So in this case, the human brain cell, we think that this is working correctly because of those different cell structures, right? So remember that these are a little bit, they have more connections. So the correct scientific lingo there would be, right, it has those different synapses that are working between the different dendrites and other things on the neurons. So we're not going to go into depth with that, but to remember, those cells have lots of pieces that are connecting to other ones. So there might be some connections there. So that we can make one hypothesis there. And the human cheek cell, we can say that the circular shape, right? So this seemed to do a pretty good job recognizing circular cell shapes. That's a tongue twister right there, circular cell shapes. And we can keep on hypothesizing. So what we can do here is, if we think that these are the different pieces of the different patterns that our machine learning algorithm is picking up well, we can add in more data that reflect that so that we can keep that same accuracy the same way. We can also start to think of those issues that happened before. So maybe at this point, we want to take a look at the number of different cells that are in each picture. So remember, our cheek cell issue here was maybe that there were too many cells represented here compared to our model. So what we could do is we could upload more pictures inside of this machine learning algorithm, so we can find more pictures of human cheek cells that have lots of different cheek cell data within them, so that we can fix that piece of bias, and we can just keep adding more and more data, keep testing it, and eventually we're going to get more and more accurate. So that right there is essentially it. Like you'll see here that we have a couple of other sample sets that you can use. So we can think about classifying dogs versus cats. So using these same kind of pictures. So we have a bunch of pictures that you can use right off the bat, and we can start making those same kinds of hypotheses about why a cat or a dog might be classified correctly. So we can do the same thing for this. So we here at NeuroMaker, we're working between prosthetics, and we also have some different educational sets that we use to teach that. So we have some pictures of these two different things. So we have some pictures of prosthetics. We also have some pictures of our educational set to teach prosthetics. So what kinds of things can we upload to our machine learning algorithm? And then what kinds of biases can we detect? And then let's see if we can document that and fix things along the way. So you'll see here that we have some other tabs that you can open up if you want to have multiple projects going on at the same time. But ultimately, you know what to move on from here. I'll also say that if you want to have a little bit more of an in-depth description of how to use your Google Teachable machine, you'll also be able to see this document here, which will go through everything you would need to know about making this work. So there you have it. So you now know how to get started with your Discovering Bias in Artificial Intelligence lesson. And from now, it's just up to you to think about different kinds of classifiers that you can make, putting in lots of different data, testing it, and seeing how you can remove the bias that happens within there. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you have a great time using this lesson. So until next time, I will see you later. Bye-bye.